Okay, so confidence is something that we all want more of, but how do we get it? Oftentimes when people go to, self-help books or different online sources looking for ways to improve their confidence, they find good tools, but they're oftentimes, things that are more superficial. So when I talk about boosting confidence, I like to start by talking about getting to the roots of things that have hurt our confidence or self-esteem. Now, confidence is something that should actually come naturally, right? We're born with a lot of self-esteem and a lot of confidence. If you look at babies, they think they're the center of the universe, and it's only as we go through life that we experience different kinds of attachment traumas and different kinds of psychological abuse that pull our confidence and our self-esteem down. So the first place to start in terms of improving confidence is addressing those oftentimes unconscious uh, identifications, I like to call them, that are pulling down our confidence. And so, just to give you an example of what I mean, let's say a little kid is going through life, and he makes the typical careless errors that a kid makes, but his father is a very impatient, somewhat psychologically abusive man. And every time his son makes a mistake, he comes down on him really hard. You idiot! What's wrong with you? How did can't you figure out how to pour milk? Because maybe he spilled some milk or something. When that happens, when a father is cruel like that to his son, the natural emotional reaction is going to be anger, maybe even rage, right? But this little boy doesn't feel safe experiencing rage towards his father. If he does, and he goes at his father, what's going to happen? It could be the end of him, right? So a lot of kids, when they're experiencing this kind of trauma, what they'll do is rather than experiencing the rage towards their father, is they identify with that abuse. So they tell themselves, no, I'm not really that angry with my father for doing that. I agree with him. I am an idiot. I am worthless. I can't do anything right. Well, what happens when we identify with those abuses? Our confidence and our self-esteem plummets, right? And if this happens habitually and perpetually, those identifications become stronger and stronger until, on some deep level, we're really convinced that we're stupid or that we're incapable or that we're worthless. And that's really going to erode one's self-esteem and confidence. So one thing that can really help to increase confidence is identifying those different identifications that we have with our past abusers. And it doesn't have to be parents, it could be bullies, it could be siblings, it could be anybody. But identifying those different toxic identifications and then addressing them. And the way we address them is by processing the different emotions that they're covering up. And that oftentimes requires therapy, but sometimes people are able to work through those things on their own as well. So after we've addressed those deeper factors that are really eroding one's confidence, then we can start to look at some of these more superficial, quick fix tools that help to enhance confidence, right? Uh, and there's been many that people have come up with over the years. The two that I'm going to be talking about today are NLP anchoring and power poses. So NLP anchoring, NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming. And what that means is that there are different ways that we can program our minds to go into very specific states, positive states, states of self-esteem, states of confidence, states of happiness, just by doing very simple things. So one way that you might do this with confidence is you might put yourself into a relaxed state and then remember the last time you were feeling really confident, that you were feeling just like $1,000,000. You were on top of the world. Nobody could stop you. And as you relive that experience and you just let that feeling of confidence flow through your body, then you can perform some sort of what we call an anchoring technique. So that might be, something that you wouldn't normally do during your daily activities. We want it to be unique and we want to associate it with that state of confidence. So you might maybe just put pressure here in between your thumb and your index finger. You might kind of embrace yourself. This is something you probably normally don't do. You could do something like, rubbing your palm of your hand with your thumb, or maybe you just, do this kind of yogic position. This is something, unless you're somebody who does a lot of meditation and yoga, something that most people tend not to do. As you're feeling that state of confidence, and you're clasping your thumb and your index finger like this, applying pressure, what you're doing is you're creating an association between that state and this physiological cue. So now what you can do with that, now that you've anchored it, is when you need a little boost of confidence, maybe you're about to pick up somebody for a date, or maybe you're about to go into a job interview, is you can just really quickly do that anchor. You can, feel that, and what it'll do is it'll start to trigger that state that you were in before. That confident state will start to come back, and you'll feel that. You have to do this on a regular basis, but if you do it and you really form a really strong association, you can reconjure up that feeling of confidence, that state of confidence, very quickly, very effortlessly, just by performing your anchoring technique. Now, the third technique that we use to increase confidence and self-esteem is what's called power poses. Dr. Amy Cuddy has found that there's a mind-body connection that goes both ways. We all know that emotions make us go into certain bodily postures. Like when we're sad, we kind of do this, and when we're happy, we perk up, and when we're feeling really good and confident, we might do this. You see this when people win races or they win the lottery, they do that because they feel so good and so confident. Now, what people don't realize is that it works the other way around. Just as emotions can provoke physical reactions and physical postures can provoke emotional reactions. And so one thing that she found is that when people assume postures of power, this, or standing or sitting in a way that's very powerful with their head up, it actually starts to pull that person into that state of confidence. It actually starts to produce that feeling and that emotional reaction within the person. So she's shown that people going in for job interviews can perform a power pose right before the job interview, hold that position for about 1 to 2 minutes, and that will actually dramatically increase the level of confidence and the way the person is perceived. The job interviewers will actually perceive the applicant as more confident, and they're much more likely to get the job. So you can see how this could apply to many different things. And another way that you could utilize these techniques is actually combining anchoring with power pose. So if you put yourself into that confident state, you remember the last time you were really feeling like $1,000,000, and then you anchor it with a power pose, then the power pose can actually become the anchor for you to go back into that state. So now you're really getting a double whammy of confidence enhancement. So the three things again are, first, identifying the different psychological identifications and defense mechanisms that are pulling your confidence down, working through those in therapy. The second thing is anchoring using neurolinguistic programming. And the third thing is power pose. If you do all three of those, you're going to see dramatic increases in your confidence, and you're going to get more of what you want out of life.